I think there's something that's happened in British politics which has just, to me, taught the Labour Party a lesson. The Labour Party was supposed to be for the working man, but all of a sudden they seem to switch their allegiance to minority communities that have bigger families, not because they believe in them, but because eventually those bigger families will become voters, where we have no kids, one kid, two kids. These are having 5 and 6. So it's a voter base, and it's nothing more sinister than that. But they've really got a punch in the mouth, haven't they, from George Galloway, who's managed to nip in and create a party, the Workers' Party, whatever he's called it, and loads of people who are from the Muslim community have defected from Labour and joined him. I'm not too keen on seeing people waving other countries' flags when they're trying to stand in an election that's about this country. I think, I could understand it if all our needs were met, but they're not. We all know that. So one of the biggest shake-ups there'll be in this election will be the impact that George Galloway's party has. Sorry about that, I had to go and let my dog in. There's another one here now. And whilst I see that's what's happened with our country and other countries like Sweden, is people won't accept that the politicians are responsible for multiculturalism failing, and it's failed because of them. If you look at anybody that that's a normal everyday person, you get on with most people. You normally find when you're interacting with people, you'll start making judgments about whether you can get on with them or whether you want to use them as a contractor in your house or whatever's going on. You'll make judgments on how they behave as a person, and you'll make judgments on the skill factor if you're employing them. So us, the people, left to our own devices, are quite capable of assessing who we want in our lives and who we don't. What's happened is politicians have forced huge numbers upon certain areas of the country, and it hasn't worked. And it hasn't worked because they haven't done it for the right reasons. And people naturally, you've only got to look at Spain, people naturally gravitate to their own community. Expats abroad, fish and chip shops, full English breakfast on the promenades of Spain. It's because that's what we wanted. We wanted to have these home comforts. It's just like anybody else coming to this country. And it's the political interference that messes up what we can manage on our own. We don't need telling how to behave. It's only when we're faced with shortages, housing, and it's going to stick in anyone's craw to think that you've got working families now, working families who are going to lose their homes, rented or bought, and you've got fit young men sitting in hotels at our expense. Is it something like £9 million a day now? You can't expect people to accept that. That's just not realistic. Because what happens, where are they moving on to, these people? Does that mean because they're all young men, all the families are going to follow? Or does it mean something more sinister? And these are the questions we ought to be allowed to ask. Nobody's addressing it. You look at it in this election, you've got Ed Davey from Lib Dums, going kayaking and whitewater rafting. I don't care if he can manage a sodding canoe. I don't want him to manage my country. Weren't he in charge of the post office when the sub-postmasters got well and truly shafted? So the political interference in our lives is something we must stop. We must make them take a back seat. They're coming more and more into our life, trying to force us into doing things, force medication on us, force us to not leave our homes. This last 3 or 4 years should be an indicator of what these political beings are capable of and what they expect us to live by, because it's not going to work. We've got energy prices sky high. We've got green tariffs on everything that we use. We've got no manufacturing left because we've subbed it all out to China, who get foreign aid because they're considered a growing economy. You can't believe it. And they're allowed to spew out fossil fuels because they're a growing economy getting foreign aid. It's written into law in the Paris Accord. So we are being shafted all ends up. And we've got leaders like Keir Starmer who can't stop. What was his dad? A toolmaker? If I hear that one more time. And Ed Davey up and down in wetsuits, trying to make himself look interesting. You're a bald-headed bloke with no charisma. Face reality, man. You're not going to be interesting. And people will remember you for the crippling effect that your lack of action had on sub-postmasters that were completely innocent, because your collusion, and that's how I see it, you'll have to show me some evidence to change my mind, your collusion with big tech crippled these families. I think one even took their own life. So when I look at governments now, and you look at all the scandals, thalidomide, they didn't want that to come out. There's people my age, 66, still waiting to get cases settled because they were bored with thalidomide. The blood scandal. Our country buying blood in from convicted felons in America who were drug addicts, and then they got AIDS. Nothing's settled. They have inquiries where solicitors get huge fees for standing up, asking lame questions where the usual faces reappear on these backbench committees, and nothing gets settled. Hillsborough, what's been the outcome? Levinson inquiry, what's been the outcome? Where have we benefited from that? Apart from millions and millions being spent on a facade when nothing happens. And not only that, these characters want us to have even bigger government, a world government that will tell you how to live. The more you have government in your life, the more you will struggle, no matter who you are, what end of the scale you're at. Because everything they touch fails. And it doesn't matter which party it is. It doesn't matter that it's Tories or Labour. They're all the same. It's an illusion of choice. And you've only got to look at everything they handle. Is the education system working? No. Who handles that? The government. Is the NHS working? No. Who handles that? The government. Is HS2 a rip-roaring success, or is it over budget? It's over budget. Who handles that? The government. Do you need any more proof that these people, they can't handle the big projects they're in charge of? So they're not going to handle your life, telling you whether or not you can buy a house, telling you whether or not you can get on the housing ladder, because their policies are making it impossible. So we need to make these characters back off, and we are succeeding, because if you look at all the things they tried to push through because of an over-exaggerated medical situation, let's call it that I don't get took down. Look at what they tried to push through. How can they seriously fine and threaten jail to a woman who was basically accused of doing something that broke rules, lockdown rules, when 2 years later it's all come out, they guessed at them? How is that a fair and just system? It isn't, is it? You've got people talking to your kids at school about whether or not they want to change sex, pastoral advice, and they'll keep that from your parents, and the kids can't even run a bank account. Surely we should telling them stuff, how to get on with their own lives. Look, you're going to need to know about running a bank account. Oh. Hiya, Jeff. Sorry about that. He's quiet. Kids leave school and don't understand what a mortgage is. They don't understand how to run a bank account. Basic day-to-day... Basic day-to-day things that, my mother taught me about. They don't know. They haven't got a clue. And don't you think that's the priorities all wrong? I mean, that's why I started following that Mike Fairclough, that teacher. He's fantastic. He's on Twitter. There's some really good people on Twitter that you could follow. If you want a laugh, I find him hysterical. He's called Burnside, after Tosh in, what was it called, that police series? I can't remember now. He's hysterical. He put a manifesto up. It's an absolute belter. You can't call it summertime. You can't call it global warming until we've had at least 3 consecutive days at over 20 degrees. Stuff like that is funny. He'll give you a laugh. Because I do an awful lot on Twitter, because you can share other things. And Twitter is a really fast platform. It's boom, boom, boom. If something's going to be leaked, it'll be leaked on Twitter. Facebook will catch up about 10 days later. And Facebook's a walled garden, really, isn't it? People make me laugh on Facebook where they go, share this, get it out there. And then I go, you've got it set to friends. You've got 18 friends, only them can see it. You need to set it to public if you're going to get it out there. We're always asked, people like me, Neil Oliver, are we winning? Are we winning? Yes, definitely. But it's not a win where there's a finish line. It's not like an election. This fella's lost, this fella's won. It's not that kind of win. What it is, it's like pushing, it's like creating a dam to keep the floodwaters back. It's just going to hold it there. They're always going to try. They're always going to have a go. But there's more of us. And there's a lot of people out there. You'll find it when you're talking to people in the supermarket. There's a guy died. It was in the Daily Mail after AstraZeneca. And it's been quite a big piece. And people are talking about it. It's been allowed to be shared on Facebook. We had someone locally die. And she was only young. She leaves 2 kids under 13. It's dreadful. Now, it was being talked about in our supermarket, and the rollout was mentioned. That would never have happened 2 years ago. Nobody would have associated it with that. But people are talking, and that's the power of being a big number. And I feel better about things every day because I can see it. People aren't taking this election seriously. Rishi's handed his notice in. Starmer's going to win in some shape or other. And what we need to do with the likes of Nigel Farage is create a decent opposition, try and get a few seats, and stop thinking with this election that small parties are going to be a government. They're not. It doesn't work like that. It's the ground. It's the bedrock of being able to actually get in the House of Commons. So once you get in with a few people, you can grow from there. So we're changing all the time, every day. They say a week in politics is a long time. A day in politics is a long time at the moment. And it won't be sorted out politically. It'll be sorted out with freedom marches and politics. You can't ignore the political end because they're the people that have got all control of us. They're the ones making the legislation. You've got to fight that. And you've got to do the freedom marches. And you've got to do everything that we're doing because it's having an effect. We're belligerent in the UK. We don't just, there's loads of countries not happy about being in the EU, but we're the only ones who actually did something about it. And there's so many who voted to remain in the freedom movement who would not vote to remain now. Now they've seen the underbelly of what the EU really is about, which is communist-style control. And don't tell me it isn't. Because if a man like Gorbachev can turn round and say he cannot understand the obsession with Western politicians trying to recreate the Soviet Union, if a man like him says that, then you've got to remember that if you saw it for what it was, you were on the right track. It's politically sclerotic, it doesn't know what it's doing, and you certainly don't need another set of government to run a country that's already got a government. They don't do it discounted down, do they? They don't say, oh, well, we're in EU now, so what we'll do, instead of having 85 grand a year as a salary for an MP, we'll only take 70. Because we've handed all these responsibilities over to the EU. You're not seeing them saying, oh, we'll take a lesser wage because we're going to be handing all our control of everything over to the WHO. Which I should do a video on the WHO alone because it is quite, it's unbelievable. And if your MP is telling you it's nothing to worry about, you've got the wrong MP. And he hasn't read it, he hasn't understood it. They don't read documents, do they? They're too busy up and down feathering their own nest. And that's the sad thing. And that's why we need some new faces in the House. It's not the be-all and end-all. It's not going to cure everything. We're going to cure that. We're going to cure that by you having the courage to talk to your friends and not pushing it down the throat, just opening it up and listening to decent people like Neil Oliver. You don't get much more decent than him. And I do this unmonetised. Neil can't afford to do it unmonetised. He's got a family to keep. And he's lost his career. He's an archaeologist. If there's anybody going to be good at digging up information, it's going to be somebody like that, isn't it? So it's trustworthy. His heart's in the right place. He puts up with ridicule from people who formerly respected him because it's important to him that we know what's going on. So people like that, they've got a Patreon account or whatever it's called because obviously they've nowhere else to turn. Once you're at GB News, if you get cancelled from there, where do you go after that? Your podcasts. And the great thing about these podcasts, I think, is that that's the way society's going. People are choosing to watch podcasts instead of mainstream news. They know, these news channels know that the marketplace is changing. The New York Times, I think it was, has 10 million subscribers, 9 million are online. What does that tell you? It tells you people are turning away from the original sources of news. And unless these news channels get on board, people will just search out where they want to hear the news from and the channels that they trust. Because that's what we've got to re-establish. We've got to establish a trust between the ones bringing the news and the ones listening to it. Because that's completely broken down in this country. And the media are to blame for an awful lot of bad things that have gone on because they withheld the truth from you. That's absolutely categorical in my book. They withheld the truth. If they'd been honest, half the people wouldn't have rolled the sleeve up. They'd have understood what it was really about. And the sad thing is that these media companies, they're not activists. They're just businesses, and they want advertising. When you've got massive drug companies, because you've got to remember these drug companies are all affiliated to things like beauty products, which is huge business because you're worth it. These drug companies are associated with massive productions of most of the things we need, from basic stuff like indigestion tablets to shampoo, and they advertise on the media. That is big spending, and one of the biggest spenders of this last 4 years with the media has been our own government. Same across all Western nations. They've become a force to be reckoned with. Do our bidding, here's our fee. And that's what you're up against. So it's important that you choose who you want to trust and who you think. You get a gut feeling when you deal. I do. I get a gut feeling when I'm dealing with people. I look at them and I think, I don't know why. I don't know why it's not working with you. I don't gel. I even get a gut feeling when I'm dealing with them online, in messages. I can get a gut feeling about it. And by the way, to the ones, don't forget, the copycat is still out there. He's still ripping me off. On Instagram, Facebook, he's got a page on Facebook. They haven't took it down. YouTube. But obviously my stuff will be here first. It'll be here and on my Twitter page. But with social media, you have the choice of deciding who you want to listen to and how they put it across. And that's what drew me to Neil Oliver. That's what drew Neil to me. And we do talk a lot because obviously, even though you're the ones trying to, I don't really put information out. There's certain things that I get to know before other people do, but it's what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to show you what I see. Like listening to a poll, you know, they're always going on in this election about polls. Oh, the polls are this, the polls are that. I have an ongoing poll with my Facebook message box. That's thousands of people who contact me in a week. Thousands. There's hundreds of messages every day. Some are just sending me links. Have you seen this? Have you seen that? I scroll past them now. Just isn't time. But if they're telling me what they're thinking or how they're voting or what they're feeling, I take notice of that because there's usually a rhythm to it. There's a change, there's a shift in the thinking, and you can see it. And to those of you who have been slagging me off on the thread on YouTube, remember I read my comments, or the comments that you put to me. So if you're telling me I'm a numpty and you're insulting me, they're gone. I'm not putting up with that. And it's nothing to do with free speech, that, because you've obviously got a YouTube channel that you're not using. You're saying nothing on yours. You've decided to come on mine and say it and insult me and make physical comments. So they're gone. Because free speech, you've got your channel to do it. Go and do it on there where nobody's listening to you. Go and do it there. Go and insult me on your own channel, not on my channel. That's not free speech. I won't let you in my house. I'll let you sit at my table and call me names. Who would put up with that? So this is the next stage, isn't it? Me sitting here like this, talking to you, and some lunatic thinks it's okay to just insult me on the thread. And one of you, you're a bit twisted because you've been on every single video I've done. So I've reported you, so I don't know whether we'll see you again. I'll have a look, because I do look at my comments. So yeah, we are definitely making a difference. Just by being us, just by getting on with our lives. Somebody said in one of the comments, now you're doing these longer videos, Jude, do you think you're going to run out of stuff to say? Well, my husband's been up and I'd run out of stuff to say for the last 30 years, so I think I've a few months left in me yet. Hopefully not. And I do kind of talk more here because it doesn't seem as rushed as the other channels, which seem to want information out in under 2 minutes or you're boring them. So hopefully I'm not boring you.